Okay, unlawful orders. An unlawful order is a command that violates the Constitution, U.S. law, or international law, and military personnel are legally required to disobey it. Examples include orders to commit a criminal act like harming civilians, torturing detainees, or falsifying records. Following an unlawful order does not excuse a service member from liability, as they are responsible for disobeying orders that are manifestly unlawful and obviously wrong. Key characteristics of unlawful orders: criminal act, an order that directs a service member to commit a crime. Constitutional or legal violation, an order that breaks the U.S. Constitution or other federal or military laws. International law violation, an order that violates international humanitarian standards such as the Geneva Convention. Examples include targeting civilians, torturing prisoners, falsifying documents, or engaging in unauthorized domestic law enforcement actions. Consequences and obligations. Duty to disobey. Service members have a legal obligation to refuse orders that are manifestly unlawful. Liability. Following an unlawful order can lead to prosecution or court-martial for both the person giving the order and the person executing it. No defense. The defense of following superior orders is not a valid excuse for committing a criminal act according to both U.S. military law and international law. Legal counsel. It is important to consult with a military defense attorney if you believe you have been given an unlawful order. Unlawful orders in the military. Orders in the military. What is an unlawful order? An unlawful order is a command that requires the commission of a criminal act or violates the Constitution, a federal law, or international law. Examples include orders to harm civilians, torture detainees, misuse government resources, or perform civilian policing duties with the military, especially when prohibited by law. It is a military and legal principle that service members have a duty to disobey unlawful orders and should not use the defense of just following orders. Key characteristics of unlawful orders: violate the law. The order requires an act that is illegal under the Constitution, federal law, or international law. Unconstitutional. The order conflicts with the rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Requires a criminal act. The order would involve criminal acts such as intentionally harming civilians or torture. Uses prohibited methods. The order involves the misuse of government resources and personal gain. The order involves the misuse of government resources for personal gain or requires a person to engage in a workplace bullying or retaliation. Examples of unlawful orders: targeting or intentionally harming civilians, falsifying operational or legal records, torturing or abusing detainees, using the military for civilian law enforcement activities when prohibited by law, such as Posse Comitatus Act, ordering employees to use government funds or equipment for personal gain, ordering someone to engage in harassment or retaliation. How to handle a potentially unlawful order. Ask for clarification. Ask a person who gave the order for clarification. Ensure that there is no misunderstanding. For example, a service member can ask, "Sir, ma'am, I just want to make sure I understand. Are you ordering me to? Okay. Disobey is clearly unlawful. If the order is clearly unlawful, even after clarification, the service member is required to disobey it. Seek help. If a service member is in doubt, they should seek immediate legal counsel from a JAG or a defense attorney. Do not use just following orders as defense. The principle that just following orders is not valid defense and well established, especially for war crimes. Can a soldier refuse an unlawful order? Yes, a soldier can and must refuse an unlawful order. Military members have a legal and moral duty to disobey orders that are clearly illegal, such as those that violate the U.S. Constitution, international law, or require them to commit a crime. Following an unlawful order can result in personal criminal liability, including court-martial and prosecution under international law. An order that violates the U.S. Constitution. What constitutes an unlawful order? An order that violates the U.S. Constitution. An order that directs the commission of a crime. An order to go against U.S. military laws and military regulations. An order that violates international human rights standards or the Geneva Convention. What a soldier should do when given an unlawful order: ask for clarification. Soldier can ask for the individual to give the order for clarification, ensure the order is not a misunderstanding. Refuse the order. If the order remains unlawful after clarification, the service member must refuse to obey it. Seek legal advice. It is advisable to consult with a military defense attorney to understand the specific situation and potential consequences. Report the incident. Channels for reporting unlawful activities include chain of command, the Judge Advocate General's office, or the Department of Defense Inspector General hotline. Important considerations. Oath to the Constitution. Service members swear an oath to protect the Constitution, not to obey all commands without question. The duty to follow this Constitution outweighs the duty to follow an unlawful order. Consequences of disobedience. While refusing an unlawful order is the correct action, there can be consequences. Service members should be prepared to explain why they refuse, as the burden of proof that the order was unlawful can sometimes fall on the service member. Lawful orders. This applies to only unlawful orders. The general rule is that service members must obey all lawful orders. What example of unlawful? An example of lawful is an act of fraud, which is a type of deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. Other examples include defamation, assault, theft, and jaywalking. These are actions that violate a law, whether it's a formal statute or unwritten social norm. What does unlawful mean? In law, unlawful means something that is not permitted by law. It's illegal or contrary to the law. It can refer to an action that violates criminal laws such as theft or assault or other conduct that is not authorized by legal authority. What are 4 types of unlawful behavior? Discrimination, harassment, victimization. What behavior is unlawful under the Equality Act 2010? It is unlawful to discriminate, harass, or victimize someone because they have or perceive to have a protected characteristic or associate with someone who has a protected characteristic. Discrimination, harassment, victimization. What are the consequences of unlawful acts? The legal consequences of a wrongful act can be severe and far-reaching. They can include criminal charges, civil suits, and financial penalties. Sanctions for criminal acts are in the form of criminal penalties such as imprisonment, fines, and confinement. In subject cases, social signs of illegal behavior refers to actions that are legally questionable and may involve participation in activities such as drug use or sex trade, which can compromise the integrity and research and put individuals at risk socially, professionally, and physically. There is no single list of 10 civil rights. The term encompasses a broad range of rights protected by various laws and amendments. However, the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution, known as the Bill of Rights, contain 10 important protections. These include freedom from religion, freedom from religion as well, speech, and the press, as well as the right to bear arms and protection from unreasonable search and seizures. First Amendment protection, freedom of religion, speech, the press, the right to peacefully assemble and petition the government. Petition the government. I have some very important people doing some important work in the courts going over some of the things I talk about. And they're being retaliated against for petitioning the government. Anybody listening, I strongly suggest while you're doing what you're doing, while you're petitioning the government, claiming your right to due process, a fair trial, effective assistance to counsel, etc., 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 while you're doing that, slap it out a writ of habeas corpus, a motion to quash, post-conviction. Second Amendment protects the right to bear arms. Third, prohibits the forced quartering of soldiers in private homes. Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable search and seizures and requires warrants to be judicially sanctioned and supported by probable cause. Fifth Amendment guarantees the right in criminal cases, including the right to a grand jury, protection against self-incrimination and due process of the law. Sixth Amendment guarantees the right to a speedy trial, public trial by impartial jury, the right to be informed of charges, and the right to confront witnesses. Seventh Amendment guarantees the right to a jury trial in certain civil cases. Eighth Amendment prohibits excessive bail and fines as well as cruel and unusual punishment. Ninth Amendment states that the enumeration of specific rights in the Constitution does not mean that other rights that are specifically listed are not also protected. 10th Amendment right reinforces the principle of federalism, stating that any powers not specifically given to the federal government nor withheld from the states are reserved for those respective states or people at large. Okay, there's a lot that can be said about unlawful orders in the military, but that can be unlawful orders in public service. Public service employees can refuse unlawful orders that violate the laws, regulations, or the Constitution that protect them from retaliation from doing so. Examples of unlawful orders include those that discriminate against employees, are a form of political retaliation, violate the Empowerment Control Act or contravene an individual's right or statutory duties. Employees can also legally refuse to follow orders that are deemed unnecessary, unlawful, unduly burdensome, or unsound. What constitutes an unlawful order? Violations of the law, orders that contravene the Administrative Procedures Act, personal statutes, procurement rules, and appropriation laws enacted by Congress are unlawful. Prohibited personal practice, action like coercing political activity, retaliate against an employee for refusing to engage in such activity or impropriety, and influencing competition for a position are prohibited. Political discrimination. For a non-exempt position, it is unlawful to discriminate against an applicant or employee based on their political affiliation. Violation of budgetary laws, orders that improperly delay or withhold appropriated funds, such as through unlawful impoundment, are considered unlawful. Unnecessary or burdensome regulations. An order can be deemed unlawful if it enforces regulations that are unnecessary, unlawful, or unduly burdensome. What do you do if you receive an unlawful order? Refuse to obey. Under the oath of office, public employees can legally refuse to obey unlawful orders. Seek legal guidance. It is often advisable to seek guidance from the appropriate legal authority or oversight bodies, such as the Office of Special Counsel or Merit Systems Protection Board. Follow proper channels depending on the situation. You may need to report the incident to the correct authorities. For example, a Democracy Forward Foundation lawsuit challenged an administration that issues unlawful directives during a government shutdown. Document everything. Keep a record of the unlawful order, the instructions you were given, and any supporting evidence. This documentation can be crucial if you need to take legal action. See, federal judge issues immediate halt of Trump admission illegal firing. And there's a lot of reasons up there. And for the most, from my understanding what Donald Trump says, he's getting rid of all the Democrats because of their political affiliations. And he's upset because he wants everybody to put loyalty to him. Okay. Putting loyalty to a politician over the Constitution is a fundamental conflict of the U.S. system of government, which public officials swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution, not an individual. This principle is the cornerstone of American democracy, which is designed to be guided by the rule of law and the Constitution as supreme law of the land. Prioritizing a politician over the Constitution is considered a dangerous path that undermines the democratic institutions and the rule of law, as it can lead to the erosion and checks and balances and the suppression of individual rights. Why is loyalty owed to the Constitution? Oath of office. All government officials, including members of the military, take a solemn oath to support and defend the Constitution, which is considered higher law than any individual. The rule of law. The Constitution establishes a government of laws, not of people. This means that everyone, including the president, is subject to the law. Personal loyalty to a politician cannot supersede Constitution framework that governs the nation. Checks and balances. Placing a politician above the Constitution will eliminate the checks and balances to prevent any one person or breach the from becoming too powerful. This could lead to authoritarianism. Protection of rights. The Constitution is the guarantor of individual rights and freedoms. When loyalty to a politician takes precedence, those rights are at risk of being ignored and violated in the pursuit of the politician's agenda. Potential consequences. Undermine democracy. Prioritizing personal loyalty over the Constitution erodes democratic principles and institution. Erosion of the public trust. It can lead to a decline in public trust in government and its officials. Abuse of power. It creates a fertile ground for the abuse of power, as officials may feel no obligation to follow law if it conflicts with a politician's wishes. Penalties for violating the rule of law vary widely depending on the severity of the offense. They include civil and criminal sanctions like fines, restitution, imprisonment, and loss of professional license for public officials. Penalties can be more severe, ranging from censure to removal from office and permanent disqualifications. Penalties are often a combination of monetary and punitive measures, which criminal penalties often involving lengthy prison sentences. Criminal penalties improvement can range from a few months to life, depending on the crime severity, aggravating factors, according to the Department of Justice and the Legal Information Institute. Fines. Monetary penalties, which can be substantial, are often for both civil and criminal violations. Note the Legal Information Institute. Death penalty. In certain cases of violation of civil rights under the color of law, the death penalty is a possible punishment according to the Department of Justice. Civil penalties. Financial penalties. These can include fines and damages paid to the government or a private party, according to the Legal Information Institute. Restitution. Payment made to the victim to compensate for loss or damages. Administrative and professional penalties. Loss of license for lawyers. This can mean a temporary or permanent loss of the right to practice law as outlined by the Brennan Center for Justice. Removal from office. Public officials may face removal from their position according to the National Conference of State Legislators. Public censure. A formal public reprimand from a court or bar authority, which may include in a person's permanent record, states the Brennan Center of Justice. Disqualification. Permanent disqualification from holding any public office. Thank you for listening. Nothing but peace and love. May your Creator always be with you and rain many blessings. Long life and good health, my friends. Good night.